Hello YouTube. The UFO case I'll describe today took place in the Russian Arctic, over the same peninsula where those strange craters formed in 2014, and I described them in an earlier video. But the UFO observation took place decades before. The eyewitness was Sergei Vasilievich Trikachev. But let me start with the location. The Yamal Peninsula is located in the Yamalo-Nenets Autonomous Okrug, or region, of northwest Siberia in Russia. It extends roughly 700 kilometers, or 435 miles, and is bordered principally by the Kara Sea, Baydaratskaya Bay on the west, and by the Gulf of Ob on the east. And the northern end of this peninsula at that northern end lies the Maligina Strait, and beyond it, Bely Island. Across the river lies the Gida Peninsula. In the language of its indigenous inhabitants, the Nenets, Yamal means end of the earth. So let me read you directly from the recollections of the pilot. This encounter of mine with a UFO in the sky over Yamal took place in 1980. At that time, there were several polar stations in Yamal. Mare Sale, Harasavai, Tambay station named after the 60 years of the Komsomol, Tadibe Yaha, and the station named after Mikhail Popov on the island of Bely. Ground-based meteorological observations were conducted from them, and all of them were regionally located in the service sector of our Cape Kaminsky Aviation Squadron. The flight rules were often introduced into different territories of the peninsula. This meant that flights to this territory were prohibited or restricted. Especially often, rules were introduced in the northern part of Yamal when flying to Bely Island, the water part of the Baydaratskaya Bay, and the Sharapova Cats Islands. The fact is that on Bely Island, at the Mikhail Popov station, polar station, there was a sounding rocket or research rocket launcher. The sounding rocket was launched every Thursday. The launch altitude was up to 70 kilometers. There, a weather balloon descending by parachute separated from the rocket, and it descended to the ground. It transmitted data on temperature, wind speed, and other parameters. One day we discovered such a device on the ground, noticing it from afar by a bright orange parachute spread across the tundra. It was up to 10 meters in diameter. When we approached the device, the clockwork mechanism in it was still working. We disconnected the carbine and the swivel, and folding the parachute, brought the device into the helicopter. The passengers who were in the helicopter at that moment were somewhat wary of the sound coming from the device and looked at it for a long time. According to an unwritten rule, the parachute cloth material itself became a trophy of the crew commander and was subsequently used as a good car cover. But I'll come back to the UFOs. So, 1980 winter polar night. Our crew is flying to Cape Kameny from the area of Novi Port, which is about 100 kilometers from the Cape. At the altitude of 1,200 meters, calmly sitting in armchairs, we contemplate the twinkling stars in a clear sky. The commander reports the estimated time of arrival at the destination. The co-pilot fills in the navigator's log. I look at the instruments, illuminated by red light on the dashboard. The workday is coming to the end. Casually glancing at the conditional horizon, I saw a bright flash that began to turn into a ring of fire. Gradually increasing in size, this ring began to move towards us. I informed the crew on the intercom. The commander also saw this phenomenon and said in some confusion, "Probably a stage fell off from the satellite, somewhere in the area of Siyahi. But the movement is a bit strange. Come on, what stage, Misha? Well, okay, the engines of the second stage work. The third fell off and fell into the sea or on the peninsula. The rocket went up. And does the ring with spent fuel move independently along the horizon and vertically? After all, we cannot determine the altitude and speed. So far, in fact, it is moving towards us. Come on, report to the Ogni district about our observation and make a decision to begin a descent in order to somehow determine the position and direction of movement of this object. Let's not play with fate. I would like to note that in the 1980, the Ministry of Civil Aviation lifted all taboos on crew reports about UFOs. An order was issued stating that when aircraft encounters UFOs, the crew must report this to the nearest airport, indicating the location of the discovery and transmitting a visual description of the unidentified flying object. The order emphasized that the transmission of such messages would not entail any consequences for the crew members. The fact is that almost all crew members who at one time reported their observations to the controllers of this air zone after arrival were sent for examination to the Medical Flight Expert Commission, where almost all of them were laid off for various reasons. Therefore, Aeroflot airline people had an unspoken rule to keep quiet about what they saw so as not to incur unemployment. And this ministerial order seemed to guarantee the continuation of official activities and legalized reports about this phenomena. The commander reported on the presence of an object and the decision to descend to 900 meters to begin with. We received confirmation from the dispatcher of the Ogni district, permission to descend and maintain communication before entering the circle of fire, and calmly began to descend. In the area of Cape Setni, which is 70 kilometers from Kameny, we achieved altitude of 900 meters and continued to descend to reach 500 meters to the 50-kilometer zone circle of fire. Somewhere at this stage, we heard the voice of the dispatcher addressed to us. Aircraft number 25, now at the executive start on the runway. In the middle is aircraft number 22. All air navigation equipment has failed. Sent an escort car. It's heading to the aircraft parking area. I allow you to enter the area. Report the situation to the circle of fire. And the voice on the air of Neofit Ibrahimovic, the commander of the aircraft located on the strip. I've cleared the lane, taxiing to the parking area. We calmly entered the lane and sat down, also taxied to the parking area. At this time, the ring had already pretty much dissolved in the dark, did not cause concern. The helicopter was handed over to the control. We went into the office where Nikolai Nikolaevich, the flight safety inspector, was waiting for us. We told him about what happened. He recorded something in the logbook, and that was the end of it. But the residue from such a surprise remained as a memory of something unusual and unexplored. So this was the recollection of the helicopter pilot, and I'll add a few words about him later. So this was a very unusual encounter with something that he described as a ring and something that was moving towards them. And the zone, the area itself was, I'm sure, under military control, so there are special terms that they used. And it seemed to me that the other aircraft had suffered something too, because everything failed there. But that's about it. However, there are some comments from the Russian discussion boards regarding this incident. Here's the first comment. I saw something similar in Kyrgyzstan, in the Osh region. It was in the summer of the year 1983 or 1984. Unfortunately, I did not see the beginning, but the ring is, yes, white, moon color. And the expansion rate of the ring was quite decent. Second comment. 1988, I saw missile launches in Chita, but that's not it. The scale is too small. But then in 1984, it was, yes, tremendous. Let me get to other recollection as well. Third comment. I saw something similar over Sarakovka, Chelyabinsk 40 air. And a very long time ago, but at first, an asterisk appeared out of nowhere. Then it drew a spiral around itself, which quickly transformed into a ring, clearly drawn along the outline. Then the asterisk puffed brightly and everything disappeared. Intrigues of extraterrestrials, however, but the feeling of mystery remained. Fourth comment. I've seen this twice as a teenager. When I lived in the village of Samburg in the Purovsky district of the Yamalo-Nenets Autonomous region, and I missed it once. Other people saw it. As it is, the whole village has seen it 3 times. It was creepy. Yes, there was a bright greenish trail behind the star, which was then visible in the sky for a long time. The glowing spiral rings faded and dissolved faster in the atmosphere. Next comment. In Tadeb Yach, as I also saw almost a UFO, a light floated in the sky, completely without sound. It was foggy, but the altitude felt small. A few years later, I came across an article about an American traveler in a hot air balloon flying over our north. Only the direction of the flight was due north, and it doesn't match up with the memory a bit by the years. Somewhere in the mid-1980s. I'm still confused. So let me also to conclude with something here. Here's the observation from 2020, again over Yamal. A resident of Nadim believes that he saw UFO over Yamal. Photographer Oleg Starozhov posted a photo of a night city with barely noticeable luminous dots in the sky, as well as an image of a certain light spot. And you can see the photo in this video too. So I want to know, what did the Soviet pilot observe in 1980? A missile launch impact? A fiery UFO? What was that apparently gigantic ring of fire? It's very interesting. I know there are missile tests and secret weapon experiments and so forth, but I think this was something else. And I've read the KGB UFO files. You can find them in my books too. And they describe incidents in the Russian Arctic, Soviet Arctic, and I've collected quite a lot. You can see it in my playlist about the Russian Arctic UFOs and USOs. But this case is very interesting to me. But let me tell you a little bit more about the narrator so you know who talked about this incident. In October of 1984, Sergei Trikachov, flight mechanic of the Mi-8 helicopter, transferred from Cape Kameny to the newly created aviation unit and worked in the November United Air Squadron until June of 1991. Sergei Vasilyevich is a flight mechanic of the first class. His flight time is more than 7,000 hours, of which over 500 were done at night. I like to hear stories and cases and observations from seasoned pilots and military people and astronomers, people who know what they're talking about when they see something and don't make mistakes. And I'll bring you more such cases in the future. Not only the Arctic areas, although its territory fascinates me to no end, and you can see much of what I had discovered in my videos, in my books, but also other parts of Eurasia and other parts of the world as well. Thank you for your attention to my work. Please support my research. You can do so in the links you'll find in the description to this video. Please like my videos and tell others. And I'll bring you more interesting videos soon.